Welcome back to 12 Days Through Numbers. This is day 7. Today we read Numbers chapters 19 to 21. I want to begin today actually by reading to you a story from the book of Luke. This is Luke chapter 18, verses 35 to 43. Then it happened, as Jesus was coming near Jericho, that a certain blind man sat by the road begging. And hearing a multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. So they told him that Jesus of Nazareth was passing by. And he cried out, saying, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Then those who went before him warned him that he should be quiet. But he cried out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." So Jesus stood still and commanded him to be brought to him. And when he had come near, he asked him, saying, "What do you want me to do for you?" He said, "Lord, that I might receive my sight." Then Jesus said to him, "Receive your sight. Your faith has made you well." And immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise to God. What a great story of a man who had great faith and who was not swayed by the discouragement of those around him. So I want to read to you from just a verse from Numbers chapter 20, which talks about the complaining of the children of Israel again, because they were now stuck in the wilderness, having been rejected from the promised land. They were now consigned to the wilderness for the next 40 years until that whole congregation had died because they didn't have faith. And so now this is just one of the events that took place in that 40 years. And the people contended with Moses and spoke, saying, "If only we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. Why have you brought up the assembly of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our animals should die here?" So we hear the bitter complaints of the children of Israel there, stuck in the wilderness, saying, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt?" And one might be tempted to feel sorry for the assembly of Israel, for the general public, because they had been banished to the wilderness their entire lives because of the faithlessness of 10 men, the spies who had been sent into the land of Canaan. But remember, Numbers chapter 14, this is 6 chapters earlier, and I'll read that account to you. And here we're going to see it was not just the 10 spies who were faithless. So this is Numbers 14, verses 1 to 10. So all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. Now, this is after the spies had come back and said, there are giants in the land, we can't go in there. And then this happens. So all the congregation hears that there's giants in the land, and now they lift up their voices, they cry, they weep all night. And the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if we had died in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us to this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and children should be victims? Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us select a leader and return to Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes, and they spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, "The land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." And all the congregation said to stone them with stones. So there we see it was the whole congregation. These same people who were now complaining, it was these same people who had rejected the promises of God and who wanted to stone the 2 men who did have faith. Know this, that any single person, any individual who is willing to ignore the murmurings, to swim against the tide, the current of what the common people around them are saying, what all your peers are saying, Any individual who will ignore the murmurings of people and ignore the voices of those who are telling them to be quiet, and who will push through the crowd and get to Jesus and all the louder call on the Son of David to have mercy on them, that person will find themselves standing by Joshua's side and entering the promised land. God is not just the Lord of all the earth. He is not just the God of the nations. And nor is Jesus Christ only the head of the church. Now, God is those things. He is the Lord of all the earth. He's the God of the nations, and Jesus is the head of the church. But God is also the God of the individual. He sees you. He knows you. And He will judge every individual according to their works. There are many other examples of this in Scripture, of individuals who, contrary to public opinion and contrary to the voices of those around them, pushed through all of that resistance because they wanted to get to Jesus. There are many other examples. Just think of the woman with the issue of blood and how she pushed her way through that crowd to get to Jesus. Just think of the leper who came to Jesus and said, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." Just think of Nicodemus and the journey that he was on as you read through the book of John, how he slowly becomes more and more bold and more outspoken in his belief in Jesus. Many such examples. Your fate is not bound to the decisions of others. I hope you know that. If you will come to Jesus, He will meet with you and He will deal with you as an individual. So come to Jesus and enter the promised land with Him. I'll see you tomorrow.